While dropping Charlotte off, her teacher unexpectedly talked to Princess Catherine, and this moment quickly caught attention online. This happened on a Thursday morning in early March. Princess Catherine woke up early and went to the kitchen to make her tea. The palace was still quiet. By 6 o'clock, she had dressed and styled her hair neatly. The sky outside brightened and looked peaceful, but she did not know what to expect. She planned to drop off the children at school before attending a meeting about early childhood development. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis attended Thomas's Battersea, a short drive from Kensington Palace. They tried to keep the school run normal, even with some cameras near the palace gates. At 7:15, Catherine helped all 3 children get ready, checked Charlotte's reading log, ensured Louis's jumper was clean, and reminded George to take his lunchbox. The children wore navy school uniforms, and Charlotte's hair was tied back with a blue ribbon. Before leaving, they said goodbye to their father, Prince William, who was by the door drinking tea. By 7:30, they were ready to go. Catherine drove while the security team followed. In the back seat, Charlotte read her spelling words quietly. Catherine listened and gently corrected her when needed. "Mommy, do you think Miss Hall will like my reading today?" Charlotte asked softly. "Of course, darling. You've practiced very well," Princess Catherine replied with a smile. They arrived at Thomas's Battersea just before 8. The morning was bright, but a cold breeze was in the air. Catherine parked near the school gate, took Charlotte's bag, and held her hand as they walked in. The head teacher had said last May, "We are delighted that the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have decided that Princess Charlotte will join her brother Prince George." Many other parents were arriving too, and Catherine greeted them warmly, like any other parent. In Charlotte's Year 3 classroom, Miss Hall arranged flashcards by the board. She was in her late 30s, slim, with shoulder-length brown hair and black-rimmed glasses. When she turned around, she forced a smile. "Good morning, Miss Hall," Princess Catherine said politely. "Morning, Princess Charlotte." "Morning, Your Royal Highness," Miss Hall replied, barely looking up. Charlotte placed her bag in her cubbyhole and stood beside her mother. Just then, Miss Hall noticed something and gently called Charlotte's attention. "Charlotte, your shirt isn't tucked in properly today. I hope you're not becoming lazy, Your Royal Highness." She then turned to Princess Catherine, adding, "Perhaps you could ensure her uniform is correct before leaving home." Catherine was taken aback. Other students and parents heard the comment, and there was a short silence. Princess Catherine bent down to adjust Charlotte's shirt, speaking softly to her so she wouldn't feel embarrassed. "It's all right, love. Stand tall." But Miss Hall continued, "Some parents are too busy thinking about their public image and forget to teach their children how to dress properly." Catherine felt anger rising but kept her face calm. Other parents pretended to look away, but they felt uncomfortable. Before Princess Catherine could respond, Charlotte's friend Olivia shouted, "Hi, Charlotte," breaking the tension. Charlotte smiled, her confidence returning. Catherine stood up straight and looked at Miss Hall. "Thank you for your feedback. I'll keep that in mind," she said with polite firmness. She kissed Charlotte's forehead, whispered, "Have a good day, my darling," and turned to leave. Walking down the hallway, she felt heavy-hearted. She had never been spoken to like that by a teacher, especially not in front of her child, but she decided not to react hastily. Sitting in her car momentarily before driving off, she closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then she called her secretary to confirm her meeting schedule. "Ma'am, your meeting with the early years team is at 10 o'clock in Kensington Palace. Then there's a call with the National Portrait Gallery around noon," her secretary replied. "Thank you. I'll be back shortly," Catherine said. Back at the palace before 9 o'clock, Catherine walked into her office and sat by the window, thinking deeply. She worried that Charlotte might feel embarrassed or think she had done something wrong. A few minutes later, William called from Windsor. "Hey, everything okay?" he asked. "Yes, just something happened at the school drop-off," she explained what Miss Hall said. There was silence. Then William replied, "That's unacceptable. Do you want me to call the headmaster?" "No," Catherine said firmly. "I'll handle it myself." Later, Catherine went into her meeting. She discussed the upcoming Early Years Conference in May, examined children's mental health programs, and approved a few community visit dates for later that month. Miss Hall's words stayed on her mind even while focusing on work. Near lunchtime, the meeting ended. As Catherine read briefing notes before her noon call, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Charlotte's teaching assistant. "Good morning, Your Royal Highness." Catherine received a message from Mrs. Peters saying that Charlotte was doing well today. Charlotte read aloud in class with confidence. Catherine felt relieved that Charlotte was coping, but knew the situation needed to be addressed. Teachers should correct kids, but they should do it without causing embarrassment. Catherine discussed upcoming exhibitions and programs during a call with the National Portrait Gallery team. She stayed calm even though Miss Hall's words kept playing in her head. After the call, Catherine looked at the gardens by the window. She decided she needed to talk to the headmaster, not to cause trouble, but to make sure no child felt embarrassed like that again, whether they were royal or not. Catherine picked up her phone to call Thomas Battersea, but her secretary knocked to say lunch was ready. While eating at her desk, she thought about handling the situation wisely. However, she later changed her mind. After lunch, Princess Catherine decided not to call the headmaster right away. She didn't want people to misinterpret the situation or make the school look bad since it was highly respected. She tried to consider how to express her concerns carefully. At around 2:00 p.m., she entered the small reading room next to her office, carrying her notes for an upcoming speech, though her mind kept drifting back to Charlotte. At 3:00, she received a calendar reminder for Charlotte's pickup time. She closed her notebook, got up, and grabbed her coat and handbag. That day, Catherine wanted to pick up Charlotte instead of sending the security team. When she arrived at Thomas Battersea, many parents were waiting by the gates. Catherine stepped out of her car, pulled her coat tighter against the cold, and walked to the Year 3 pickup area. Some parents nodded politely, while others whispered. Soon, she saw Charlotte coming, holding her reading folder and smiling when she spotted her mother. "Mommy?" Charlotte called, hurrying towards her. Catherine knelt and hugged her tightly. "How was your day, love?" she asked gently. Charlotte hesitated and mentioned that Miss Hall said she hadn't read clearly in class. Catherine smiled softly. "You did your best, darling, and that's what matters. Some days are harder than others, and that's okay." As they walked to the car, Charlotte shared details about her spelling quiz and a game of netball. Catherine listened closely and was glad to hear her daughter's cheerful voice. Once in the car, Catherine helped Charlotte with her seatbelt and took a moment to encourage her. "About what Miss Hall said this morning, you did nothing wrong. You looked beautiful and smart, just like every day." Charlotte nodded but seemed to still think about it. "Mommy, did I embarrass you?" Catherine shook her head firmly. "Never. You could never embarrass me. Sometimes adults say things they shouldn't. That's not your fault." Charlotte smiled faintly and looked out the window as they drove through London back to Kensington Palace. They arrived home just before 4:00 p.m. Soon after, George and Louis changed out of their uniforms to play football with William. Charlotte quickly changed into her jeans and sweater and ran outside to join them. Catherine stood by the window watching for a while. After lunch, she returned to her study and picked up her phone. Catherine called Thomas Battersea and spoke to the headmaster, Mr. Jonathan. She calmly explained what happened with Miss Hall that morning. Though she wasn't angry, her tone showed she meant what she said. She believed it was wrong for any teacher to embarrass a child, especially in front of others. Mr. Jonathan listened carefully, understood the seriousness, and promised to address the issue. He said he would talk to Miss Hall right away. Catherine thanked him and ended the call, feeling relieved. She thought she had done the right thing. She stood up for Charlotte without raising her voice. Later that evening, after dinner, Catherine helped George with his history homework in the living room. William reads a storybook to Louis on the other sofa, while Charlotte quietly reads her library book beside her mother. At one point, Charlotte asked softly, "Mommy, do you think Miss Hall doesn't like me?" Catherine put her arm around her daughter. "I think Miss Hall had a bad morning and didn't handle it well. That doesn't mean she doesn't like you, but if she ever repeats something unkind, tell me." "All right," nodded Charlotte, returning to her book. Reassured by her mother's words, when William asked how things went with the headmaster, Catherine said he was kind and understanding. Mr. Jonathan apologized and promised to talk to Miss Hall. William felt better knowing the school was taking it seriously. He didn't like anyone making their children feel bad, especially at school. Catherine was glad he supported her. They sat quietly for a moment, thinking about the day. Both understood the importance of protecting their children and ensuring they were respected. Catherine nodded, but hoped Miss Hall would reflect on her actions. She believed teachers could build or break children's confidence, and Charlotte deserved kindness. The next morning was Friday. Catherine woke up early again, prepared breakfast, and prepared the children for school. Charlotte seemed cheerful, humming softly as she tied her shoelaces. When they arrived at the school gate, Miss Hall saw them from a distance and quickly turned away, pretending to be busy with papers. Another teacher, Miss Green, greeted the children with a warm smile. She greeted Charlotte and Louis kindly, and then nodded respectfully to Catherine. After a brief exchange, Miss Green excused herself to call the headmaster's office. A few moments later, Mr. Jonathan stepped outside to meet Catherine. He politely greeted her and sincerely apologized for Miss Hall's previous comment. He assured her that the matter was being handled, and would not happen again. Catherine thanked him calmly and said she understood. She wanted kindness and fairness for her children, not trouble. After that, she hugged George, Charlotte, and Louis, watched them enter the building, and then returned to her car. While driving home that morning, Catherine didn't understand why Miss Hall had been rude. At first, she thought Miss Hall was having a bad day, but when it happened again, it felt intentional and concerning. Still, Catherine tried not to worry. The headmaster promised to talk to Miss Hall and address the issue. She hoped that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. The incident happened again, and Catherine's response surprised everyone. The headmaster said he would talk to Miss Hall, but he hadn't done so. He planned to address her at the next staff meeting, thinking there was still time, but he didn't know things would worsen quickly. At school, Miss Hall was acting differently. One teacher close to her noticed something was off. Catherine also noticed something was wrong with Miss Hall, but Miss Hall didn't explain her feelings. That afternoon, Catherine picked up her children from school, as usual. She saw Miss Hall, who immediately scolded Charlotte, saying, "You need to work on your attitude. You seem distracted." Catherine was shocked and calmly replied, "Excuse me, you don't talk to kids that way. If you're having a hard time, talk to someone. Don't take it out on them." Miss Hall was surprised and didn't respond. Another parent who heard said, "You owe her an apology." Miss Hall just walked away. A nearby teacher saw the incident and told the headmaster, Jonathan. He called Miss Hall into his office saying, "I've heard reports about your behavior. This is not acceptable. Is there something you want to share?" Miss Hall paused and admitted, "I'm sorry. Things have been tough at home. I've been under much pressure, but I didn't mean to let it affect my work." The headmaster softened his tone and said, "I understand. You shouldn't bring that stress into the classroom. Maybe you should take a few days off to rest." Miss Hall agreed. Later, Jonathan called Catherine to apologize for the incident and let her know Miss Hall would be gone for a few days. Catherine listened carefully and asked, "Is she okay? Does she need help?" The headmaster explained Miss Hall's situation. Catherine was quiet momentarily, and then offered, "If there's anything I can do, or if she wants to talk, I'm available." Miss Hall took a few days off. Catherine kept her routine during her absence, while Charlotte seemed more relaxed. When Miss Hall returned, she greeted them differently. She apologized for her earlier behavior and praised Charlotte's reading skills. Charlotte smiled and thanked her. Miss Hall also apologized to Catherine for how she had acted. Catherine offered to help Miss Hall, who admitted she felt overwhelmed. Catherine gave her contact information for support, and later connected her to a mental health organization. After attending weekly sessions, Miss Hall began to feel better and thanked Catherine for her help. One day, Charlotte brought Catherine a thank you letter for Miss Hall. Catherine felt touched and smiled. On Monday, Charlotte gave Miss Hall 6 chocolate muffins in a rib-boned box as a thank you gift. Watching her daughter's kindness made Catherine feel proud. What do you think of Catherine's grace in this situation? Let us know in the comments. If you liked the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Click the following video on your screen for more.